Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the Share Series Monday Management Update. My name is Alyssa Berry, Investor Relations for FendX Technologies, ticker FNDX on the CSE. On the OTCQB, it's FDXTF, and on the FSE, it is E8D. FendX is a nanotechnology company focused on developing film and spray coatings to protect surfaces from contamination. It is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Carolyn Myers, FendX's founder and CEO. Dr. Myers is a highly accomplished senior executive with extensive experience in the creation, growth, and leadership of healthcare businesses. She has worked with biotech and pharmaceutical companies throughout her career and is no stranger to leading businesses through commercialization, rapid stages of growth, and successful exits. The urgency of tackling infectious diseases has never been greater, and it's important to understand that the rise against the spread of pathogens that causes these infections goes beyond just the healthcare industry. You'll hear shortly how FendX strives to contribute to reducing the spread of pathogens and how they are playing a key role in creating safer and more hygienic environments. It's worth noting that FendX has demonstrated remarkable growth in achieving its milestones in the timeframes it's set out to date. Just last month, FendX released its results of research conducted at McMaster University, highlighting an astounding 99.8% reduction in adhesions of bacteria to treated surfaces and at least 99.6% eradication of residual bacteria. With that, I'll pass it over to Dr. Myers to tell us more.
Thanks, Alyssa. We're just waiting for the slides to load. There we are. Well, thank you, Alyssa, and it's great to be here today to share with you our very exciting story. We incorporated FendX back in the summer of 2020, right in the thick of COVID-19. But I have to say that the nanotechnology we were developing was actually created prior to the onset of COVID. And I'll talk about that a little bit as we move forward. But obviously with COVID-19, there's even a much more grown awareness of the fact that pathogens are all around us, and we need to be more hygienic and safe. So with that, can you go to the next slide? This is just our forward-looking statement for your purposes to review. Whenever. So we're a nanotechnology company. We licensed our nanotechnology from McMaster University just outside of Toronto, Canada, back in early 2021. And we licensed it because I did the original due diligence on it, and I thought it was pretty interesting. Very unique, a very unique way to prevent the transmission of bacteria and viruses. What McMaster had shown is that this nanotechnology, once constructed and initially in a film form, basically created a surface that essentially nothing would stick to. And you could see on the left the results that they were getting as it relates to the degree to which COVID-like viruses or certain bacteria that they tested were not able to adhere to the surface. And quite frankly, if the bacteria cannot adhere, they cannot replicate, and their transmission through a touch is very much reduced, which is what has been demonstrated in the lab. We licensed spray IP from McMaster University this past spring, and it is also showing very, very good results. It's in an earlier stage of development, but as you can see here, it's showing a very high, significant reduction in adhesion of COVID-19, like viruses, as well as MRSA, which I'm sure most of you are familiar with. We're obviously focused on bacteria and viruses that are transmitted via surfaces. And quite frankly, there are many of them that have the potential to be lethal, MRSA being one of them, certain strains of E. coli, C. difficile, et cetera. And so those are the ones that we are focused on as we develop our products. Next slide, please. Next Thank you. Alyssa already alluded to this. Why is this important to us? Why do we believe that there need to be innovative solutions to help fight the spread of these potentially lethal pathogens? It's because healthcare-acquired infections are one of the top 10 frequent causes of death globally, which is really outstanding in my mind. And secondly, just in the United States alone, more than 99,000 people die annually. And this is not COVID. This is from these other lethal bacteria and viruses. And it costs the healthcare system in the United States quite a bit. As you can see here, it's greater than 28 billion in just direct medical costs. There's also the socioeconomic impacts as well, which are on top of this. And global health protection agencies like the CDC and the WHO have put in place guidelines to try and reduce the spread of these potentially deadly pathogens, which mostly includes like disinfecting surfaces, etc. But unfortunately, as rigid as one may have their protocols, it still isn't enough, because those are only as good as when you're actually using those products, because they don't provide long-term protection to surfaces. So that's why we are focused on developing our products to aid in reducing the transmission of these potentially lethal pathogens. Next slide, please. So how do they work? Our nano coatings, as I said, we're developing a film, and we're also developing a spray. Essentially, if you apply the nanotechnology, whether it's in a film or a spray version, which is shown at the top here, and then you touch it with a contaminated hand, the contamination essentially stays on your hand versus being transferred to the film or the nanotechnology. And as a consequence of that, we have shown that you reduce the level of transmission. You can see below that an uncoated surface, and if a hand contaminated with a bacteria or viruses is touched on that surface, they can deposit that bacteria or viruses on the surface, which means that they can be transmitted. So we believe that this, in addition to current practices, potentially will help to reduce the spread in general of these lethal pathogens. Next slide. Our first product, as I mentioned, is Repel Wrap Film. It's our lead product in development. It's going to be very easy to apply. We anticipate that it'll be flat sheets, films, that have an adhesive backing that you essentially just pull the adhesive backing on, and you apply it to that surface. It can be applied to flat surfaces as shown here, hand railings, and other types of surfaces similar to handrails and flat surfaces. And in September, we confirmed that we can actually automate the production of this film in pilot runs that we did with our manufacturing partner. When we licensed the product, the IP from McMaster, we licensed a prototype of the film. It was essentially the size of a quarter, so it was it was really, really tiny, but very efficient at repelling or preventing adhesion. What we have been able to do over the last 2 years is reformulate this to the point that we transfer the formulation to our manufacturing partner in the summertime, and in September announced that we were able to automate the process to create essentially sheets of film with the coating on it that literally can be coated within minutes, versus this quartered size film that actually took close to 24 hours to produce. So we're very proud of what we've been able to accomplish over the last 2 years, and since then we've done more, and we will continue to optimize the process, the formulation, so that we, in the future, and hopefully the second half of 2024, will be in a position to have a product ready for commercialization in Canada. Next slide. So our spray-on film, essentially that's what it is. It's the equivalent of Repel Wrap film, but it's a spray-on version. And I'm pretty excited about this. It's in an earlier stage of development, but if we can bring this to fruition, it could potentially be easier to apply than a film, and it could be applied to various different surfaces beyond those that Repel Rep film can be applied to, and potentially even increase applications beyond healthcare and other high-touch surface, high-traffic locations that we plan to focus on with Repel Rep film. We signed a manufacturing agreement with a company called Nanocomposites. They're a nanoparticles expert, and they are going to be starting our scale-up assessment work and development work. We are in the process of transferring our formulation to them so that they can begin that work. So essentially, we'll follow the same path that we have with Dunmore with our film to ultimately do pilot runs to increase the batch size of the spray with nanocomposites. Next slide. I have a strong background in M&A and licensing, and one of the things I know is that you cannot just grow organically. So one of the areas that I'm really focused on is looking at licensing and potentially acquiring products or companies within our space, which is the infectious control space. In addition to that, products that are synergistic to what we're developing today are products and opportunities that we're exploring as we speak. And as we move forward, hopefully we'll be in a position to bring some of those products into the organization. The other thing that we're doing is we're looking at other ways in which we can use our nanotechnology that we licensed. And one of them is potentially to coat catheters. I'm not going to go into any detail about that. Maybe Alyssa can ask me about that. But McMaster has shown some really good early results of this nano coating on plastic similar to catheters in terms of reducing the adherence of bacteria and blood to those surfaces. Lastly, as I mentioned, we are going to be launching our Repel Rep film in Canada first. That's the intention. But the idea is to expand beyond that, certainly into the US, which is definitely an interesting market, and then beyond that to other markets as well. So with that, I'll close and I'll pass it back to Alyssa. Thank you.
Carolyn, thank you very much. That was extremely insightful. It's nice to get a really effective overview like that. Let's go back to the catheters. Can you talk a little bit more about that and perhaps some of the other applications that you're going to use your nanotechnology on as we move forward?
Well, the catheter project is something that is rather near and dear to my heart, having come from healthcare and the pharmaceutical industry. I actually started in sales selling catheters. So I know the problems with catheters and the fact that they can occlude due to biofilm formation, which is bacteria growing colonies, and also from blood clots. Also, long-term indwelling catheters can be subject to bacterial infection and have to be removed. So, and just the maintenance of these catheters can be tremendously expensive. So it's a project that we're probably going to be undertaking very soon with McMaster to continue to coat catheters with the nanotechnology to confirm that it reduces bacterial biofilm formation on the surface of the nanotechnology as well as blood clots. And if we are able to confirm that, then we'll move into preclinical and clinical studies to study this further, to look at occlusion rates. The idea is to get to a point where we can actually partner this and potentially do co-development with a catheter company to move into clinical work should we be successful in getting to that point. So stay tuned. There'll be a lot more news coming out on that in the future.
That's great. Thanks, Carolyn. I volunteered in retirement homes early before I had my professional career, and I could see what you're doing could be extremely effective in so many environments, including in the seniors housing space. I just want to jump back to all of those significant advancements that you've made with the Repel Wrap film. And you have confirmed that you can automate the manufacturing process through that pilot run that you've done with Dunmore. Can you tell us a little bit more about what we can expect from FendX over the next 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, so I just want to go back and say that we're pretty proud of what we've been able to achieve over the last 2 years, 2.5 years, I guess, with Repel Rep Film, based on what we licensed and what we needed to do to get to the point of being able to transfer the formula to Dunmore, and in short order, with them and their expertise as a film R&D as well as manufacturing company, help us to automate this process. And the next steps are, we just announced that we're going to be doing a second pilot run with them, and we'll probably do one or two more of those. And the whole concept behind that, as I mentioned, is to continue to optimize the formulation and the process so we can get to a point where we have a product that performs as we want it to, at a cost that is very reasonable for ourselves, as well as ultimately for the end user. So that's the plan. And if things go as we planned, we do anticipate potentially having a commercial product in the second half of 2024 to be commercialized in Canada. Now, we don't plan on commercializing that product ourselves. We'll do it with distributors. We have identified who those distributors are within the healthcare sector, and also in other high-touch, high-traffic venues. And when the time is right, we will reach out to those potential distributors to sign agreements for them to commercialize the product, in conjunction with us getting involved in the commercialization as well.
And Carolyn, once commercialization is achieved, what are some of the target markets that you want to focus on first?
Well, healthcare is one of them. And for obvious reason, a lot of these pathogens thrive in hospitals, long-term care, other healthcare settings. So that's really a key focus of ours. And but as I say, there are other venues where there's high touch, high traffic areas like stadiums, office buildings, schools, you name it. So there's a lot of opportunities for this product as we move forward beyond even healthcare.
And I'm a mom of four. It's so germy around here, and I'm constantly using wipes and sprays. And you mentioned in your presentation that current practices to keep surfaces safe, it's just not enough. Can you talk a little bit more about how the Repel Wrap film is going to be incorporated into current practices?
Well, the current policies and practices within healthcare, for example, and quite frankly, pretty much every other venue, is to use disinfectants. And these disinfectants, they come in the form of sprays, or they come in wipes. And they're great. They work amazingly to kill bugs when they're used. The problem is you can't constantly clean surfaces. And that's the problem. And that means, you spray or you wipe, that's great, it's gone. But the next time somebody touches that surface, it potentially can become contaminated. Our nanotechnology provides immediate 24/7 protection for extended periods of time. And so that's where we believe our sweet spot is to be put onto surfaces or applied to surfaces, not to get rid of the disinfecting or with sprays or wipes, because I don't think that makes sense, but maybe we can reduce the degree to which that needs to be done, because we're protecting surfaces all the time.
Carolyn, a question just came in here around competitive landscape. Can you talk a little bit about what that looks like today?
There are other films on the market. They're very different than us, though. Most of them contain metal ions, or they're photocatalytic. And in order for them to work, bacteria and viruses need to stick to the surface. They need to divide. And through that process, the metal ions or the photolytic capabilities of the surface will kill those bugs. It doesn't happen instantly. And so I've always maintained that while they are efficient at killing, there potentially still is a window of opportunity that the bugs can be transmitted. As I mentioned, our product repels. Things can't adhere to the surface. And so, and it's immediate, obviously, and it's 24/7. And so we believe that we have a very unique way of being able to reduce the transmission of these potentially lethal bugs. The other thing is that many of the metal ion and even the photocatalytic products are not used in healthcare, generally speaking. They're used in other high touch point, high traffic areas. We believe that our success in getting into the healthcare system will potentially set us apart. Because this is an area where there really isn't anything used other than just disinfectants, spray disinfectants, and wipes. And just to say a couple of things about my team, Alyssa said a few things about me, but just so you know, in my tenure, I've launched more than 25 products into hospitals and other healthcare locations, et cetera, with physicians, et cetera. And my COO has done the same. She's done 10 plus products. And between the two of us, we know the healthcare system. We know what is required to be able to launch a product within a hospital or long-term care setting. So I do believe that gives us a real advantage in terms of getting our products into that kind of sector.
Carolyn, I'm so happy you're doing what you're doing. I just want to take us back just to wrap it up here. We talked a little bit about the film. Can you talk a little bit more about the spray and the next steps with the company that you're looking to develop the spray with?
As I mentioned, we signed a master services agreement with Nanocomposites. It was towards the end of October. And we're gearing up now to transfer the spray formulation to them so that they can assess it and continue to do scale up development with us. So the first step really is to assess the formulation. If it needs modifications for scale up purposes, then we and McMaster will work with Nanocomposites to make that happen. The next step after that is to actually do larger scale batches as pilot runs with them, and then test them to confirm that they still maintain the properties that we want that spray on film to maintain. And if they do, then we'll go back and as we're doing with Dunmore, we'll optimize that process so we can get to a final formulation that we can take into the commercial phase. I should say that with both the film and the spray, the intention is to do beta testing. Most of the results that we have gotten so far are obtained in the lab, in McMaster's lab. We really want to test these in real world environmental conditions. And so for the film, once we have a film that has the performance metrics, et cetera, that we think we want to move into commercial scale, we'll actually do this beta testing before we move into the commercial scale. And we'll do the same with the spray when we get to that point, is do beta testing to confirm it meets the performance measures we want it to.
Thanks, Carolyn. Is there anything else you want to add here before we wrap up?
No, I just want to say that other than to say, it's been an interesting 2.5 years. I'm very proud of my team, who has really worked diligently to get us to where we are today, and to have achieved the milestones that we set in place, and quite frankly, we're meeting them in the timeframes that we said we would. I mean, it really is a testament to, you know, an incredible collaborative effort with McMaster, with our manufacturing partners, et cetera. And, you know, for anybody that wants to learn more, please go to our website, you know, don't hesitate to reach out with any questions to myself, Alyssa, and, you know, sign up for our e-blast, and you can hear firsthand all the news that and the achievements we're going to be making as we move forward.
Carolyn, thanks again. And as Carolyn mentioned, if there are any further questions, please feel free to reach out to us. And up next is Starco Brands, so stay tuned. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.